Hello friends, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today, exactly as you are, and thank you so much for giving me the space to be here today, exactly as I am. My name's Elle. This vlog, it's going to be a reading my fall TBR vlog, or reading part of my fall TBR. I have already made some headway in a few books, and I realized I haven't really documented any of it. So this is just gonna be a good old-fashioned reading vlog. I don't know how many books I'm going to read in this vlog. Maybe like 2 or 3, who knows. We'll kind of play it by ear. But the first book that I'm reading is Assistant to the Villain, and I'm only like 8% of the way through on page 35, and I've already like found myself snorting at quite a few lines. I've highlighted quite a few things. I'm taking the hunter safety course right now. In between pauses, I have been reading Assistant to the Villain. I started it today, so I'm only on page 35, 8% of the way through, and I think it's fun so far. I like the writing style. I think just like the glimpses we've gotten of the villain and the main character Evie, their banter is fun. It seems like it could just be like a fun little fantasy read. I don't know if there's any romance in this, like, truly, but it definitely seems like she has a crush on the villain, so I don't know really like enough to give you a full opinion just yet. Done with the course for the day. My brain is fried and I can't absorb any more of that information, so I need to go get some dinner, and I want to drive down to my local state park and eat down there. I've been trying to do that lately. It's just a place I enjoy being, and it's a nice change of scenery. I've been cooped up in my house all day. I had a meeting, like a work meeting this morning at 7, but pretty much since then I've been home, like staring at my computer screen. So I want to get outside. I need a bit. I literally never leave anywhere without my Kindle. Packing this away. And if you see this back here, it's a heating pad. The other night, or I guess morning, Monday morning, I woke myself up with like the world's worst muscle cramp in my right calf, and I feel like it hasn't left since. Like, the cramp has subsided, but there's still definitely like a bit of pain. I've been wrapping the heat pack around it. It finally feels like fall, like actually, because, well, I don't know, it got actually a little bit colder than average. We had a freeze warning this morning, and there was frost on the windshield whenever I left to go to my work meeting. It finally feels like fall. Last week I got some really good photos in front of this really big tree down at my state park, and I'm glad I got those photos whenever I did, because the past couple days as I've been going down there, the tree is bare now, like it is naked. So I got those photos right in the nick of time. Why does my voice suddenly sound like gravelly? Say like a reading vlog, like good old-fashioned reading vlog, but I don't think I've ever done a reading vlog on this channel. Like, technically called it a reading vlog. So this is going to be a reading vlog. I'm going to be reading some books. Some books from my fall TBR. And I'm not entirely sure which books I am going to be reading, but obviously I'll let you know as I go on. And I usually don't read like multiple books at once. So we'll start with Assistant to the Villain and go from there. I wanted to pick something on my fall TBR that wasn't a contemporary romance, because ever since I got back from the cruise, I have been reading nothing but romances, and I feel like my brain just needed a bit of a break. I don't even think I told you all the date. It's Wednesday, October 16th, and as you can tell, it just hit 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock somewhere by Alan Jackson. Ever since I got back from the cruise, I feel like I've been reading nothing but romances, and I want to break it up a bit. I need variety in my life. On the cruise, I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and I picked it up because my cousin Haley had read it, and she wanted us to talk about it, and oh my god, it was really good. I don't think I fully understand the hype, because I did predict like some of it probably like halfway through, which I don't know if that's necessarily like a good rate, but for the most part, like with a thriller, I want to be kept on my toes the entire time, and then probably about like halfway through, I was able to start piecing most things together. I wasn't on the edge of my seat the whole time, but it was still a really good book. I was worried that I was going to get actually scared. Like, before I started reading it, I was worried that I was going to get actually scared, but I had a really good time. It was fun. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the quote-unquote series, because I don't know, I find it a little impractical that you can make a business. I don't know, I find it a little impractical on like how the storyline can continue, just because I'm thinking of like forensics. I'm also like in the same way of I was disappointed with If We Were Villains by ML Rio. Like, it just doesn't necessarily seem realistic. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's just a campy thriller, like, more so as it progresses. The one deviation I've made from romance in, like, the past probably, like, 2 or 3 weeks, I need to break it up. And granted, like, I'm okay if this has a little bit of romance in it. I needed to switch it up with a little bit more something in the forefront of the plot line. Also, on the cruise I read The Grace Year. I can't remember who it's by, but that was really good. And you like dystopian, new adult, a little YA fiction, like, it was really good. Back to today. We're gonna go get some food, and then we're gonna continue to read. It's the next day, 11 a.m. and I've been up for a few hours and I've been just reading and I've been watching some YouTube videos, but I just wanted to kind of give an update on Assistant to the Villain. And I don't know, I'm 58% of the way through and I like it. I'm having a good time, but I just feel like I'm waiting for stuff to happen. Like, I'm actually waiting for, you know, something to happen. And I know there's a second book out already, which I think it came out last month. It came out in September. Maybe they're just trying to set things up in this first story, but with like the way that I understand it, I don't know how you can drag out this current situation into 2 different books. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, for lack of better explanation, I just feel like I'm waiting for it to like actually pick up. Like, I feel like 60% of the way through, things should be happening right now. There are things I'm highlighting, there are things I'm enjoying, but it's like I'm mainly highlighting like how the villain feels about Evie. I don't know, I'm not super interested in the plot line right now, mainly because I also just feel like they're withholding like so much information. In a way, I also feel like I should know more than what I do right now. I find myself like I'm not itching to know what happens next. In a way, I feel like if I put this down, I wouldn't be upset because nothing is happening, and I feel like there isn't something like, you know, there isn't something I'm dying to find out. Because I'm me, I am gonna continue to read this. I'm gonna see more like what I can read today, and if I still feel this way, like, I may DNF it if it's somehow, I don't know, I'll just update you all. But like, I'm getting the same vibes about this book as I felt like with We Were Villains. It's like I'm not super vibing with this book, but I've made it so far. I feel like I gotta get to the end. That's the situation right now. As you can tell, Astrid is being a little needy. Anyways, I need to get dressed and I need to do some things for the day, so I don't know exactly how much I'll be able to read, but you know, I'll update you along the way. It is a couple days later. It is Friday now. It's the 18th. And I just wanted to come on here and give a little reading update because I did finish Assistant to the Villain. I finished it this morning. I wanted to like this so bad because just the premise of it sounds so fun. Like, I love a morally gray character. I love morally gray characters in general. And whenever I first started reading it, I was having fun. Like, I was laughing to myself. I was giggling. But then I just feel like the plot went absolutely everywhere. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the whole story, they were just going on side quests, and I just had a hard time wrapping my head around what was happening. Like, I understood, but at some point I had completely lost what the plot was. Evie, I really liked her. I really liked the main character. I liked all the side characters. I liked the villain. I liked all the characters. It was just the plot didn't do it for me, which is upsetting because I did want to like this book. I want to find out what happens because they do end off this book on a good cliffhanger, and I didn't read preview for Apprentice to the Villain, which is the second book, and I want to find out what happens, but it's also like I don't know if I want to find out what happens that bad. Who knows? I may come back to it, but I'm not like wanting to jump right into it. I feel like I think I gave it like 3.25 stars on Storygraph. That's what I'm going with, 3.25. I really liked Evie, and I liked the villain, and I liked their banter, their relationship. Not that it was like actually relationship, but overall just like their friendship, their internal thoughts about each other I thought was fun. While at work, I bought the X-Hex because I had it borrowed. I borrowed it from the Libby app, but I didn't read it fast enough, which granted, like I checked it out like way before I even wanted to read it, so I don't know what I was thinking with that. I downloaded the X-Hex because it was on sale for $1.99. I literally read like the first paragraph at work on my phone, but I'm gonna go back and reread that because I was distracted. But I want something that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like. It doesn't take much brain power, which granted, it's not like Assistant to the Villain was complicated to read. It was just I was trying to understand the plot. I'm gonna start the X-Hex. This girl, she's heartbroken, and she casts a curse, a little hex on her ex-boyfriend, and then he like comes back to town and shit starts going wrong. Vivi and the main guy, like they have to work together and, you know, get rid of this curse. I'm feeling like maybe like a little second chance romance moment, kind of like lovers to enemies to lovers, you know. I feel like it won't take too much brain power. It's not that long. It's only 318 pages. I have to work in the morning, so I'll probably read for like a couple hours before going to bed. I started this clip to give you all a reading update. I told you all that I was starting the X-Hex. I think that night I made it to like 50% of the way through. Couple chapters, I think it was like chapter 12 through like 15. I listened to the audiobook on Spotify because I wasn't connecting with it so much. I felt like there was just a lot of detail that I didn't really care about. And just like describing the atmosphere and stuff. And it's like, I like an atmospheric read, but it just kind of got repetitive. So I was like, okay, maybe it'll be better if I listen to it on audio. And the thing with me is like, I think the only thing I've listened to on audio is a memoir, which was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Really good book, very much recommend. It's heavy, but it's good. So I wasn't sure how I'd feel about a fiction book on audio because I can't really listen to podcasts. I can't get my brain to focus in on podcasts. So I really wasn't sure how it would go. Once I started listening to it on audio, I feel like it caught my attention a little bit more, but it also helped that I feel like things kind of started to pick up a little bit in the story. And now I'm currently 87% of the way through. I'm on page 269. I'm quite close to finishing it. I'm on chapter 30 and there's only 35 chapters in this book. I'll definitely finish it today. I'm not exactly sure when, but it will be completed today. And I think it's fun. I think it's cute. I'm having like a pretty good time, but I just feel like we're not really getting any insight to the characters. Like I feel like the characters themselves are pretty flat and boring. There's romance happening and then there's like them trying to break the curse thing happening. But as for the characters themselves and like what is going on, what is happening, like because I feel like what we found out about them in the beginning is kind of like all we've found out. There hasn't really been like too many big revelations. Like there was one to kind of just happen, but it was hinted at earlier. So, and I feel like the romance is a little flat because in the present it's just a lot of lust, and for the most part all they're focusing on is the summer they spent together 9 years ago. They only spent like 3 months together 9 years ago, and it's almost like, okay, but what's happening now? Like, mine is just lust. Because it's like, I wouldn't have an issue with the lustiness of it, but they're also trying to build a relationship off of it in a way. There's just like a lot of things playing into the romance-ness of it that I'm not really jiving with, but I'm having fun with the plot. Like, I think it's fun, which is a nice little 180 from assistant to the villain, because I was liking the characters, but I wasn't vibing with the plot. And now with this book, I'm liking the plot, but the characters feel a little like one-dimensional. That is where I am. Sun is leaving ridiculous shadows on my face, but I've waited long enough for it to get in this position where it's filmable enough. But anyways, hello. I just wanted to come on here and give a reading update because I did finish the X-Hex like I figured I would. I finished it this morning, or kind of like, yeah, I would say I finished it this morning, and I give it like 3 stars. Like, it was kind of anticlimactic because I felt like every time something was about to happen, it would just get resolved way too quick. But I understand, like, that's the point of this story. Like, it was supposed to be fun. Like, I'm not taking it too like, if I take it at the lens of like not taking it too seriously, it was a good time. It was a fun book. I don't think I want to read the second one just because I read the synopsis. Knowing the characters, like, I didn't become overly attached. Like, I didn't become attached to any of them because, like I said in my previous clip, they just feel flat. Like, I don't know, they don't really feel fleshed out. So I don't think I'm gonna continue on with the second book. I'd give the X-Hex like 3 stars. Like, if you're okay with like just a fun, like somewhat witchy story, but it's like pretty modern actually. Like, there's mentions of witchcraft and like they're all witches in the book, but it's not like super like old-timey. Like, they kind of talk about like witchcraft becoming popular mainstream media, which I think was kind of funny. And I did like their use of like tarot cards. I thought it was fun kind of hearing about that in the story. The characters just, like, yeah, they didn't do it for me. They fell flat. I felt like their relationship, like, there was nothing there, you know, beside the 3 months they spent together 9 years ago. That's literally all they harped on. I did start a new book. I didn't really film today because I was visiting my grandma in the hospital. While I was there, I finished the X-Hex, and I also started The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I want to say I heard Sarah Caroli pronounce it, and I'm second guessing myself. Ooh, no, Alex Michaelides. It's Michaelides. I started The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot more than the other 2 books I've read in this vlog so far. I'm only 27% of the way through. I'm on page 96. And I think it's supposed to be like I was gonna say mythical, but I meant mystery thriller. And I am really liking it. I'm liking the character, like the narrator introduced so far, and Alicia, her as a character is really interesting. Like, I'm just dying to know more about the patient that doesn't speak. And going into this, I kind of thought it was going to be in her perspective, which would be nice since, you know, like, she doesn't speak, so you don't really know what's going on, and I want to know what's going on in her head. But we get kind of like these glimpses of journal entries. Not too often, but it seems like at the start of each different part it's a journal entry. But I don't know, that's just like what I've observed so far. That could be wrong. I'm really enjoying it so far. I mean, yeah, everything in this vlog has been on my full TBR. I'm really liking it. This might be my favorite out of the vlog so far, and that's saying something because I feel like kind of right off the bat, going into both of the, not right off the bat, like, I was enjoying Assistant to the Villain. I was giggling. Like, there were some really funny parts in the beginning. Like, in the beginning it had me, and then the middle it lost me, and then I kind of was reeled back in towards the end, but not entirely. And then with the X-Hex, it was okay. I wasn't anticipating anything great. It wasn't like a big disappointment. It was okay. But this one I'm enjoying already, and I haven't heard, like, I know it's popular, but I haven't heard anyone else's opinions on it, so I don't have like my judgment clouded by anyone else's input. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm liking Alex's writing style, and yeah, I'm liking his writing style so far, and it's not fun, but I'm having a good time reading it. got some book mail that I want to open up and show you all. This one came a couple days ago, so I opened this one a few days ago, and it's Rouge by Mona Awad. This book was on my fall TBR, and I mentioned how I will buy any book, anything that Mona Awad puts out. I love Bunny, one of my favorite books of all time. So good, just such an amazing read. If you haven't read Bunny yet, give it a go. It is very hit or miss. People either, I feel like, love it or hate it. I am among the people that love it. So anyways, I picked up Rouge, which is the kind of like third and final installment of Mona Awad's fairy tale-esque stories. Bunny is the first one, All's Well is the second, and then the third rounding out at Rouge. And this one, I think, talks about just beauty standards and kind of how they can destroy someone. Rouge holds up a warped mirror to our relationship with mortality, the cult-like nature of the beauty industry, and the danger of internalizing its pitiless gaze. So it kind of just sounds like a take on the beauty industry. The main character is grappling with her mother's death. After the funeral, a video about a transformative spa experience lures Belle to the spa where the same spa that her mother was devoted to. There, Belle discovers the frightening secrets behind her obsession with her reflection and what lurks beyond the glass. Yeah, I'm very excited for this. Like I said, I love Mona Awad, and now I own a physical copy of almost every book she's put out. I think the only one that I don't have is, it was like one of the first books she put out. It's like 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. Earlier, I ran up to the post office because I had a couple packages waiting for me, and I know exactly what this is. Oop. Oh, well, that's disheartening because I thought the cover was going to be like holographic, but it's not. It's just colored. I thought it was going to be kind of like, it was going to have some texture on the cover, and maybe the hardcover does. That is not the version I went with. Can you sense my disappointment? Anyways, the second book that I picked up is The Modern Girl's Guide to Magic by Lindsay Hall. This is another book that was on my fall TBR, and I mentioned how it almost gives Night Circus vibes. What I get from the synopsis, the main girl isn't super good at magic, and she enters into like a magical competition, and she is like up against a super experienced male magician. We'll see how I feel about this, because the X-Hex was kind of like one of the first like witchy romance books I've read, and it was disappointing. I'm not entirely sure if romance is going to be a huge plot point in this. I was disappointed by the X-Hex, so I feel like because of that I'm a little apprehensive to go into this, but I think it's a completely different setup, so I'm not gonna let how I felt about that witchy romance cloud how I could feel about this witchy romance, because honestly, romance may even take a back burner. Regardless of how I feel about the X-Hex, I am excited to read this book, and even though it's not like a foiled raised cover, it's still really pretty. I'm okay with that. These are the two books that I've picked up this month. It's been so long since I've bought a physical book because I don't have the space. I only have one bookshelf in my room, and it is full, and I don't have the space to buy another one. I need to figure out some other kind of storage because I really do love buying physical books. I just haven't let myself because I have no room to put them. Hello, ignore my pajamas and my sick-sounding voice and my box of tissues. I am indeed sick. I was just going through and editing this video. It's like a month later that I'm finally sitting down and editing it, and I realized I just like completely dropped off talking about The Silent Patient, which is so funny to me because, like I said, this was indeed my favorite book out of the 3 books that I read. I rated it 4.5 stars on Storygraph, and I feel like that's pretty accurate. Like a month later, I stand by that rating. It was so good. I didn't guess the plot twist at all. It's not something I want to do. Like, I don't want to get the plot twist right, but I do like to try and guess to see like if I can figure out what happens at the end. Totally threw me for a loop. It was really good. I'm pretty sure like whenever I read the page where the twist happened, like my jaw visibly dropped. I was like, oh my god. Because if you read it, you know, but you know, like kind of a couple chapters leading up to it, it's starting to piece everything together, and you're like, oh my god, this is what this is. and I really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. Very good. I definitely want to read more of Alex Michaelide's books. Like, his writing style is so good. Had me on the edge of my seat. In a way, the ending could have given us a little bit more, but it was still, like, it was still so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, I do want to read more of Alex Michaelide's writing. Even the characters, which they're not supposed to be likable, but I still found myself rooting for them in a way. And actually, since it's been a month since I filmed a majority of this vlog, I did go book shopping. I've been to Barnes & Noble twice in the past month, which is such a luxury, because before this, I haven't been to, like, Barnes & Noble in, like, a year, probably the last. I went into, like, a used bookstore in August, but for my birthday with my partner. But it's been a very long time since I've been into Barnes & Noble, and I've been into one twice this month. 2 different ones. I did pick up The Maidens whenever I was up at a Barnes & Noble in St. Louis in, like, the Galleria Mall. Almost like a boutique Barnes & Noble, which was kind of weird. I hadn't ever really been in a boutique Barnes & Noble. I saw this, and obviously, reading The Silent Patient, I was automatically attracted. I was like, Alex Michaelide's, yes. And I read the back of it, and it just sounds really interesting. I'm just gonna read the synopsis, because I've realized I'm not the best at summarizing books if I haven't read them yet. Edward Fosca is a murderer. Of this, Mariana is certain, but Fosca is untouchable. A handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge University, Fosca is adored by staff and students alike, particularly by the members of a secret society of female students known as the Maidens. Mariana Andros is a brilliant but troubled group therapist who becomes fixated on the Maidens when one member, a friend of Mariana's niece, Zoe, is found murdered in Cambridge. Mariana, who was once herself a student at the university, quickly suspects that behind the idyllic beauty of the spires and turrets, and beneath the ancient traditions, lies something sinister. And she becomes convinced that, despite his alibi, Edward Fosca is guilty of the murder. But why would the professor target one of his students? Why does he keep returning to the rites of... I always pronounce her name wrong. Persephone. Is that how you pronounce it? Persephone. So whenever I was second guessing myself, it's the most is whenever I got it right. Also, Astrid is using the litter box, so I do apologize if you hear scratching in the background. And why does he keep returning to the rites of Persephone, the maiden, and her journey to the underworld? When another body is found, Mariana's obsession with proving Fosca's guilt spirals out of control, threatening to destroy her credibility as well as her closest relationships. But Mariana is determined to stop this killer, even if it cost her everything, including her own life. That sounds really good. They had a, kind of like the cards they do at Barnes & Noble of, like, the people who've read the book, they'll kind of describe it. And I think they compared this to The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which I haven't read, and I don't really know if I want to read this. Regardless, like, it just sounds really interesting, and I like Alex Michaelides as an author. I haven't read too much dark academia. I don't really think. If We Were Villains has a bit, I guess, was like dark academia. Would you classify Bunny as dark academia? Because it does take place at a school, and it's like twisted secrets of a school. Well, twisted secrets of a people a part of a school. So I don't know, maybe I've read more dark academia than what I think. I am really interested to read this book, and I feel like it's kind of perfect for the seasons right now, because we're getting like more into winter. I was going to say we're kind of still in fall, but where I am, it's personally not. It's chilly outside, and it is not fall. All the trees have no leaves left on them. This clip started out me talking about loving The Silent Patient, then it switched over to me talking about The Maidens.